Hello everybody, welcome to Tree Doctors. I'm your host John Passmore, and on today's program we're going to be in Earl, Arkansas, where they have this great big rocking chair, and all throughout northeast Arkansas with Ed Dickey, the head tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service. We'll be back to start the program right after these messages.
Hello, I'm Ed Dickey, the tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service. I'm coming to you from inside of a tree. We've been getting inside of trees for 35 years. We get to the root of the problem. Give us a call. We know how to save your trees. We put the chemical where it needs to be, inside your tree, taking care of insect and disease problems. We're often imitated, but never duplicated. We've been doing this 35 years. We know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service. It's not hard to see what killed these trees. It was boreworms. The borer is a hard insect to control, virtually untouched with spraying and other applications. But with systemic injection, when the borer eats the tree, the borer dies. Trees are dying all over, but we've got the cure. We give a 1-year guarantee when we treat your trees for the borers. We've been doing this 35 years and we know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees.
Let's go out into the field with Ed Dickey, the head tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service. Take a look at some trees and get some tips on how you can take care of your trees.
I'm here in Wynne at the home of Joe and Martha Dooley. And what I think is neat about this yard, she's got a fig tree back here. They got a magnificent yard, well-kept yard, and a cool fig tree. And if they'll take a minute here, I want to talk to them a little bit about their fig tree. Can you tell me a little bit about it, Joe, about your fig tree?
Well, this house was built in 1911 and occupied by my parents, who died in 1998. Many viewers will remember Mary and Ernest Dooley, and I was their oldest son. And Martha and I have lived here after they died, and we have taken up kind of where my parents left off. This fig tree is a brown Turkish fig tree, and it's about 25 years old. And it produces 2 crops a year. And you have guided us as far as the nurturing and care of it. And Martha has pruned it and harvested and made fig jelly and jam from the figs.
Yeah, I started to say she picked it up on making the jam and stuff, because she gave me some of that wonderful jam. I told her she's got a product there that could be marketed on its own, because it is a wonderful jam.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And you say you get 2 crops a year off of the tree?
Usually you get a crop, 1st of June, and then early August you'll get. And you can tell these are smaller figs right now. So actually, this is the 2nd crop coming on. The 1st crop has already passed, or the birds got it. And last year our 1st crop was the most productive. This year our 2nd crop is the most productive.
I see. Joe, on the care for this over the years, what extra have you done other than a little fertilizer and pruning?
Ed, that's about it. We don't do anything. Martha prunes the tree. We keep an owl on the other side. We've got a rotating owl to keep birds from pecking it. We've got some aluminum pie pans I usually put in there, and the reflection keeps birds away.
That's a good idea. I've heard that works quite well.
Yeah, and as you can see in my tomato patch over here, I've got several pie pans, and those pie pans reflect the sunlight, and it makes a little racket, so it keeps the birds out of there.
Yeah, that's very good.
And we take cat hair. We've got 2 outside cats, and when we brush those cats, we take that cat hair and put it in hose, and we hang that in the fig tree too, and the scent from the cats keeps squirrels out of here.
Okay, you're talking about like a pantyhose or something, putting the cat hair in there and dispensing it on the tree.
Right, right. Just hang it in the tree, and that scent from dog hair or cat hair will work, either one, and that scent does a real good job in keeping varmints out of here.
Well, that's real good because, you know, fig trees they're not everybody got them, and people would like to have them, and it's neat to have your own fruit and have your own jam and all of that. And needless to say, you got a wonderful job here on the rest of your yard, your garden and your other plants, and we'll walk through here in a minute and we'll talk a little bit more about that too.
Well, Martha will tell you how she propagates this. These trees are real easy to propagate. Someone that wants to start a fig, and tell them how you do that, honey.
Well, I've done it the last 2 years. The first year, you have shoots come up from the bottom of the tree, and I went ahead and just dug those up. But this last year, when it's starting the new growth, which is like February, March, when I pruned, after you told me to prune, I kept some of the tops and I put rooting hormone on them, stuck them in the ground, watered them, and I've got fig trees growing. So.
One other thing I'd like to touch on, you had a bad winter one winter and this actually froze back one time, is that right?
Yeah, it did, and we just cut the dead back, but the fig tree came back.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah, it won't kill all the way down to the roots, even if you do get a hard freezing winter. So, and this is the 25th year, you think, on this fig tree?
We don't know the actual age. We think it's somewhere around 25 years old, yeah.
We recently treated this old northern red maple with a scale problem. You can still see some of the carcasses still hanging on the branches. And Joe, tell me a little bit about this tree.
Well, our home was built in 1911, and this tree was planted sometime around we think around the 20s. So it's a real old. We got a pair of them in the front yard. Right. It's a real old maple tree, and we had a problem with it, and I called you, and you came down and you treated it, and we had a scale problem. Right. And you know, we could have had this tree cut down, but that would have cost us $1,000, and we paid you a couple of $100 to treat it, and it really enhances the beauty of the property. So
right, and it's a gorgeous tree too. You'd have missed the shade.
Exactly. It provides a lot of shade. It does a lot of beauty for our yard.
Oh, indeed it does, and most people don't think you can grow northern red maple well in this area, but these have been doing well for almost 100 years, hasn't it?
Almost 100 years, and Ed, it produces a color show in the fall, as you know. It's just gorgeous.
Sure does. It sure does. Well, thanks for talking to me about it.
You bet. Thank you.
State of Arkansas has got a book called The Trees of Arkansas. It's put out by the Arkansas Forestry Commission. It's an inexpensive book, I think $8.95. You can get it at any of your local parks, state parks. It's what I like about it. It's up to date. This is the 5th revived edition, and it's issued by the Arkansas Forestry Commission. And what I like about it, it's printed on recycled paper. So they didn't cut a bunch of trees to print it. That makes a little sense, you know. I also used soybean ink. That don't hurt. That helps the farmers. But it gives you a breakdown of the different trees in Arkansas, the ways to look them up, and it's easy done, very easy done. I'm here at the home of James and Barbara Sullivan in Monette, and Mr. Sullivan's here with me, and he'd called me in. He's got a wild cherry tree that he had a problem with, and what made you want to call me, Mr. Sullivan?
Well, I saw your ad on TV, and you were recommended by Nursery in Paragould, and I figured you were the expert, so that's the reason I called you.
All right. Yeah, when I came, Mr. Sullivan's here, I found he had a borer problem going on in his wild cherry, and you can see the oozing on the trunk here, on the base, and a gel, just like on a peach tree, puts out a gel. Wild cherry does the same thing. The leaves are real frail. You can see the gel fermented up on the bark, all up along the tree. His wife had asked me, his wife Barbara had asked about these hostas. Was they a problem planted around the base of the tree? And what's your feeling on those hostas, Mr.?
I don't know. I think they probably could be thinned out, but I don't know that much about what effect it has on trees. You know, that's the reason we kind of wanted your opinion on it.
Right. Well, my answer to your wife was the hostas are fine. In fact, they're gorgeous. I think they look very well kept around the trees, and as long as you can get to the base of your trees like you can right here, at the bottom of your trees, and I'll furnish him with some follow-up information, stuff he can do in the future, and long as he can maintain that little area right around the base of the trees, he can have flowers, shrubs, anything he wants around the base of your tree. So don't think your flowers are hindering your trees, realizing that they do take a extra amount of feed to maintain. Of course, the homeowner, you allow for that. You feed those on their own anyway.
Yeah, that's right. And we originally put them in because we've got so much to take care of, and we were looking for something that the perennial plants, you know, that we wouldn't have to plant every year. Because the first year we were here, my wife put out about over 1,000 flower plants, you know, so we're trying to cut down on that.
We're here by a ginkgo tree. He moved back to this area from Chicago 3.5 years ago and bought this residence. And I was talking to him a little bit about this ginkgo tree. And do you know much about this type of tree, Mr. Sullivan?
I know very little about it, but I know there's a difference in the male and female when they get older, and you pointed that out to me this morning. And as I understand it, the females, when they get about 20 years old, they start shedding something that doesn't smell very good, but I'm not sure what it is, technical term of.
Right, yeah, they bear fruit, and the ginkgo's a gorgeous tree. Most people, the reason they plant them is the leaves all change at one time in the fall, and pretty well fall at the same time, and they're a low maintenance tree. They don't have insects and bugs like other trees.
I've noticed that about the leaves falling off. Seem like in just a day or so after they turn, or once they start falling, seem like they fall awfully fast, you know. The leaves, they seem, maybe in a day or in a couple of days, they're all gone. You know?
That's right. They're all in a nice little circle around your tree, kind of looks cool. Yeah. The one thing most people aren't aware of when they get a ginkgo from their nurseries, and even the nurseries don't know this, is they don't know the type of tree it is, whether it is a male or a female. There's no way of telling. And 20 years later, the homeowners are going to know. And so in a year or two, Mr. Sullivan's going to know whether it's a male or female. And if it's a female, he's going to be have the fruit and it foul smelling, and which I might have to mention that they eat this over in the Orient. You know, we think it's foul smelling and yucky, but it's an edible fruit over in China, where this tree came from. But over here, we don't care much for it. So we might keep you posted on what this tree does in the next year or two, because it's getting to the age whether we're going to know whether it's a male or a female. But you've heard of the ginkgo tree. This is a ginkgo tree, and it's a fine one, Mr. Sullivan.
It is. It's a nice tree. It's real thick and nice foliage on it, and we like the tree real well. So we're hoping it's a male,
Yeah,
but we don't know.
I'm here in Leachville, and this is at the home of Todd Edwards, and here with me is Linda Edwards. This used to be her residence, and behind me is some redwood trees, and a lot of people don't realize that they grow well in this area. They're just like a cypress. And I would like Linda, if she would, to tell us a little bit about how they got here and what she did to get them here.
Well, when we were first moved here in 72, then in 73 or 74, we moved to this house. This was John's mom and dad's house. And the whole front was mimosas, so we decided to redo it, revamp it. And we put in, went to the Red Barn in Blytheville. And he said, I've got a tree for you. And it's really different, and it was the redwood. And so that's how we put them in here. They were probably 15 feet tall when we put them in.
And that would be Mr. Miller that did that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
That's right. And I've serviced, had the opportunity to see a lot of the Don redwoods that he had sold back during that time. There's some in Kennett, Missouri, and different places. And in fact, I've got some redwoods in my testing area over there. And most people are not aware, but the trees normally do very well. I think you found that too, haven't you?
Yeah, they've done really well. The one on the far end was kind of sickly when we first started, and we just kept taking care of it, and it grew, you know, and they've done well until now.
Right. Well, we got a little bit of a bark beetle problem, but we're going to handle that for Todd. But the reason why I wanted to mention on the show about the Don redwoods is that they look so much like a cypress. A lot of people have probably seen these trees around thinking they were cypress, but they're not. They give a better shade, a little more resilient than a cypress, and they're just a cool tree, and they'll get to be a big tree. These trees are, of course, this is her family tree because they planted these trees years ago, about 30 years ago, and you can see from behind her they get to be pretty big. And if you had to do it over again, would you plant them again, Linda?
Oh, yeah. I love the looks. In fact, we have a new home, and this is what I miss, this right here. This is my front yard.
Well, you're going to have to get you a few more Don redwoods.
I know it. I don't know where you get them anymore.
Well, you just have your nursery get them for you. I was fortunate enough. There was a nursery in outside of Paragould, Rogers Nursery, that I got about 15 or so here a couple of years ago, and I planted in my test area, and they're doing well and growing. And if you ask any of your nurseries to get them, I'm sure they'll get you that type tree. And it's called a Don redwood, and Don redwood's a pretty tree. And I want to thank you, Linda, for taking time to talk about them.
Thank you very much.
I'm taking a little rest on a big rocking chair in Earl, Arkansas. We'll be back with more with Ed Dickey, the tree doctor, right after these messages.
The tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject a zap back in your tree's sap. Research has showed that ice-damaged trees are stressed, and stressed trees lead to insect and disease attacks. Micro tree injection is the answer for your trees. Micro tree injection is a closed system, delivering the exact dose of systemic chemical directly to the sap stream of the tree. Once the problem is identified, the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject vitamins, minerals, or insecticide directly into the sap stream of your trees. This bypasses the roots and provides immediate results. Micro tree injection has been university tested and field proven for over 35 years. After the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service treat your trees, you receive a written 1-year guarantee. We won't treat a tree we don't think we can help. Let the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service put the zap back in your tree's sap. Hello, I'm Ed Dickey, the tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service. I'm coming to you from inside of a tree. We've been getting inside of trees for 35 years. We get to the root of the problem. Give us a call. We know how to save your trees. We put the chemical where it needs to be, inside your tree, taking care of insect and disease problems. We're often imitated, but never duplicated. We've been doing this 35 years. We know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service. You might remember a few weeks ago we was in a little community called Vinson, right out of Crawfordsville. That's close to West Memphis. And right across the street from that tree we showed you at that time that was treating a couple large trees, there's another historic tree. And here it stands behind me. This tree is one of the largest in the state of Arkansas. And the property owner is not here. The neighbor knows them well and told us to come on over and take the shot and have me take a look at the tree. And what I found upon looking at the tree, and it's kind of easy to see and might be worth mentioning, you can see this big hole here. It looks like somebody shot a 30-06. But what's really odd is here's the bore casing. This is what the casing of a borer looks like. A lot of people says, what does borers look like? Well, when he comes out of the tree to mate, you know, that's what he looks like. And then they fly off and they lay their eggs and on the bark of another tree, drill into a tree, process continues. But that's good, pretty good size insect. And you can see it'll fit right back into the hole where it come out of, hanging right there. And that's what they do. They get in and restrict the sap flow, and this old historic tree is being attacked, just like the neighbors across the road was that we treated with the borer. And this property owner will probably have me treat this old historic tree. I hope so. It's a magnificent tree. I just hope the camera does justice to how big this tree is. You can see the old chain that's grew into this tree on the trunk, where they probably at one time skinned animals or had a hammock. I don't know. They had something going on here. But this is a big old tree, been around a long time, over 200 years. Not too many of them like it around here in this part of the country. There's a whole lot more of them scattered across the United States than this, but this, the distance around I haven't measured, but it's a big one. It's easy to see it's a big one. And this is the people's family tree, needless to say. Now, I imagine they want to take care of it. So there's things you can do, and I hope I showed you a little bit there about your borers. And a lot of people wonder how to contact us. We had one fellow tell us that he didn't find us in the Yellow Pages, and I tell the people in that case, then call KAIT, our TV station. They'll be glad to give you our number. We're advertisers with them, and they'll pass it on to you if you're in outlying areas and we happen not be in your phone book for some reason or other. But we should be. But if you can't find us, there's no reason that we can't look at your tree. There's no charge to look at it to see if we can help you. But these little fellows can do a number on your trees. They can ruin these beautiful trees in a short amount of time. But we got the answer, and we can stop that. I'm right outside of Lepanto here, where they filmed the movie The Painted House, and it's a beautiful community. I'm visiting here with Linda Moore. Linda, tell me a little bit about these trees. When did you put them in?
Well, when my husband and I built this house, well, we planted them, and they were probably 2 or 3 years old when we got them. And we had this guy at Dice, the mayor over there, he put them in for us. And some of the others in the back too, but they're about 20, I guess they're close to 30 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess because...
So they was put in the early 70s.
76, to be exact, that year of 76. I'm proud of my trees because I can see all the difference in the world, since they've been treated.
Yes, ma'am.
They're fuller. They were places up there I guess it's dying on me.
Yes, ma'am. They was real thin in there.
Yeah, but I'm real proud of them now.
I'm here in Wynn with Beverly Burnett, and she's got an unusual tree she had me treat, and I wanted Miss Burnett to tell a little bit about this tree. Tell me a little bit something about it.
Well, this happened like 48 years ago. My daddy went out on his farm and brought me this tree. He thought he was bringing me a white oak, which he did, but he didn't know there was also a, sweet gum on the other side. But anyway, it's grown into a V, and it's 48 years old, and it's a very healthy, beautiful tree, thanks to Mr. Dickey.
Well, what I thought was unusual is that it's two trees kind of grow together, and she's let them remain that way. This is the white oak, and of course that's the sweet gum, and she's took care of them over these years. It's still giving plenty of good shade, and you don't see that happening too much. It's actually almost grafted itself to the other one, and I'll move this bush a little bit so you can see that it is indeed two different trees. And Beverly, you say it's been how long since you planted this tree?
48 years ago.
So this is indeed a family tree too, y'all. I'm still here with Beverly Burnett, and she's got a cypress tree here behind me. When I treated these other trees in the yard, this tree was in excellent shape, and I didn't recommend we do anything to it. And I'd like for her to tell a little bit about this tree.
Well, I could say 35 years ago, I decided that I wanted a cypress tree to show my children what kind of wood of which the house was constructed. And so my husband and I bought this tree. We ordered it from a florist here, and we planted it right here. And so it has grown, and it's a beautiful, beautiful tree.
Yes, it is, and it's 35 years old, you say?
Yes.
So that goes to show you how big a tree can get, just a little bit of care, and it's in a good space. And like she said, this whole structure of the house here is cypress, so it's easy to see where it comes from, a cypress tree here. And earlier in our show, we showed a little bit about redwoods, which resemble a cypress, but cypress has got its own identity. And I thank you, Beverly, for telling us a little bit about
Okay.
that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dickey, and thank you for looking after my trees. You've done a good job with them. As you can see, I almost have a jungle here. You've done such a good job, but I thank you.
I'm here in Leesville, home of a lot of good people, good churches, the Melody Theater right down the road from the Adams estate, which about 20 years ago we treated every tree there when Mr. Adams was about to renovate that, put his home in. We treated every single tree there on that property. They've maintained them after that. A lot of people don't realize it. We do a little follow-up maintenance for them when they're not able to, and that's what we're going to show you here. Some of the follow-up maintenance that gets done on the trunk of the trees that we do, and you can see kind of how we do it.
Daddy phoned to tell us that old tree might have to come down. The one I had the tree house in and chased my wife around. He said a neighbor showed him where it was busting at the trunk. And if the snow got heavy, it could crack down to the stump. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Grandpa said they planted it when he was just 8 years old. His mama kept the clods broke up while his daddy dug the hole. I phoned up a friend of mine that lives in our hometown. He said he knew a tree doctor didn't like to cut trees down. The man went out and checked our tree and bolted it back together. He said it would last a lifetime, no matter what the weather. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Yes, we got to save our family tree.
We thank you so much for joining us today on Tree Doctors. Remember, if you have a question, you can always go to www.dickeytree.com, and there's a place there where you can email Ed and he'll answer your questions for you. Thanks for joining us today on Tree Doctors.